everybody, it's your boy Goke Taiwo, C89 Tiger House. Thank you for joining us on Naija Commandos for Life. Today we have two of our lovely C97 set over here to give us that 90s generation view of their perspective while they were in command. So I'll pass it over to Ife to introduce our guest. Thank you. Ife.
Good evening, everyone. Ife Dapolawe, Command Secondary School, Ipaja, Lagos, class of 88. Nice to see you guys again. If you're watching from all over the world, I hope you keep it safe in the midst of this pandemic. We have two lovely ladies here today from different time zones. One is in Canada, one is in UK. And wherever we are, me and Goke, I don't know, we forgot our zones just there. So we have, she said I should not refer to as doctor, but I'm not going to take that out. Dr. Lola Ayobayi, 97 set, Scorpion House. We have Jumoke Alao, 97 set, Flying House. That was actually the best house ever, as I remember.
Sure.
Yeah, the best house ever. So Jumi is in Canada. Lola.
Whatever makes you go happy.
We'll get back to that. Lola is in the UK. So I'll give you ladies the floor to briefly introduce yourselves properly. Dr. Lola Ayobayi, you want to go first?
All right. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. So you've already heard, my name is Lola Ayobayi. I used to be Lola Adeyemi in Command 97 sets, and I was Scorpion House captain for my set. I've got fond memories of Command. I've got some bittersweet memories, and hopefully I'll get to share some of them today. In terms of what I do, I am currently a writing consultant and publisher. I could evolve tomorrow because I started off as an engineer, so my background is engineering. But because I like to enjoy what I do, I've decided to follow my heart, and that is why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I found a lot of fulfillment as a writing consultant, and I help people birth their dreams of becoming authors. And I think that is a bit about me. Okay, I'm married. I've got 2 children. I've got a boy, he's 11, and I've got a girl, she is 7. What else? Yeah, I think that is it about me for now. And it's okay to call me doctor. I just didn't want you to call me Lola because we're in a setting where everyone can call me Lola.
My daughter has a daughter that's Lola anyway, just by the way. All right, Julie.
Okay, well, I think you said most of it. My name is Olajumoke Dakogunshola, Ni Alao. Command 97 set, Flying House, the best house. I was the assistant utility prefect girl for my set. I am a broadcaster. I've been a broadcaster all my life. Worked with Africa Independent Television for the most of my career in Nigeria. Worked in Houston with NBC. Currently working with Global News in Canada. I'm a mother of 2 lovely kids. My daughter is going to be 11 this year, and my son is 8. And I have a very supportive husband, and I love reading, meeting people, mentoring people, talking a lot. That's my thing. So
I mean, come on, if you don't talk, how are you in that business?
So yeah, that's I think those are the major things about me. Mentioned my house already, and I have a sister who was 89 sets. So
you're in the right field, being a journalist then.
Oh yeah, she's in the right field.
I'm ready to go to Global News Canada. I know that station.
Thank you.
So keeping up with the talk show host, Jumi, why don't you take the floor and give us your narrative of command experience from the day you were dropped off in school?
You don't even want to know.
I want to know.
Okay, so true, I love to talk and everything, but being on the other side is always hard for me because my job is I'm the one who probes and put people to talk. But outside
you know how it feels. You know how it feels.
Yeah, so now I'm wearing the shoes. I know how it feels. I think I actually resumed late because I can't forget that the resumption was maybe I was maybe a week or two late to go to school, and I'm someone back in the day there used to be International Trade Fair, and I'll never miss it for anything. But when my dad said, "Okay, they're ready, you've been admitted, you have to go to school," my dad was, "We'll go to the trade fair and I'll drop you off," and I was totally like, "No, no, 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 no! I just want to go. I want to go." My mom, she still remembers the excitement and all about going to command and going to school. And I remember getting to the auditorium. That's where you check in, right? You bring all your things, your buckets and what have you. And the seniors are there sitting on the benches there, and maybe with one or two house masters or teachers supervising, and they will check out, check your name and see and move from there. But I think it was quite a smooth ride for me, maybe because I would say my sister's school daughter, it was fun for me to get into school and meet all the people, and because I've been coming there prior to that on visiting Sundays to come see her, so it wasn't so new for me. But then getting in there to lead, and after a while I told my dad I was done, that I wanted to go to a day school. And he was like, "No, your sister finished from there, you have to finish." I just felt there was just something I think I missed home. I was homesick. Being the last born, things were just not what I'd anticipated, and all the excitement I had. After like maybe 2 weeks, it was all gone. But I think what really, really thrilled me the most was the fact that I was in charge of provisions all by myself. No mommy to say, "Don't eat this, don't eat that." So seeing all the provisions I was taking to school, I was supercharged for it. Then suddenly, here I am, everything gone. I'm like, oh, the reality dawned on me. So yes, it was a great experience meeting people from that first day, forming friendship, right? Friendships that we still have till now with most people. And for me, it was just the day, it was the beginning of meeting people, original people who we were all there, not sure of what we were going to become. So we're all kind of innocent, and we're genuine, and we're just there. So I make friends, and from just one to just two, just three, and what else? I was in the first quadrangle. The thing that I didn't like most was those days the seniors got punished, maybe because dormitory was dirty, and then trust me, the moment from dining hall, you guys are going to crawl to dormitory, and they will place it in a way that you cannot jump. There are ways that you can jump that crawling. You just quickly sleep and move. Those were the worst days for me. And but the other days, I think it was good. I look at it and I'm always, I'm happy I went to Command Secondary School, because it prepared me for where I am today, the independence, being able to think ahead, being proactive. So yes, if I have more things, I'm going to.
Okay. So all that good stuff. How are you as a senior? You say you were utility prefect, right? Mm-hmm. So I want you to take a back seat and say, okay, I'm in the mirror now. I'm a junior. What would my juniors say about Jumokela when she was a prefect?
That would be best left to the juniors. But I don't think I was a very wicked senior. I was just,
Wait. You were not very good when you were wicked.
Not like that, right? I wasn't one of those who, I knew there were, growing up in command, there were kind of some seniors that are like, oh my gosh, don't you do
that's
but right, I wasn't one of those, don't cross them. I started from, I don't know if your set had what we call the labor force. Right? We have the labor force committee, where you have food committee, labor force, and all those kind of committees. So I started from labor force in SS1. So it was already my road to leadership role or something at that point. And I think up till now, my style of leadership is not that which enforced. I'm not too strict on things, right? I try to be lenient. Mm-hmm. So I don't think I was wicked, because if I was, many of my juniors would probably see me and run away right now. But
when
I think I even received an award as most decent prefect or something. So I wasn't that wicked, Yeah.
So will you say you're a disciplinarian?
I was, I think I just said it as it is, and I wasn't too hard. I wouldn't call. I think I was disciplined, but I wouldn't be too hard on juniors. I don't know why, but for example, one of the things they made fun of in my set when we were passing out, when they were mimicking seniors, that final night before you guys would meet and stuff. And when it was my turn, they were like, "Oh, Senior Jumokela will say, please, can you get me?" And I'm saying, please, that kind of thing. So that was me.
All right.
Oh, that's good home training. If you say please, it's good home training. Something you learn from home.
Wait. Okay. Lola.
Yeah.
Can you before you go into your own experiences, can you back it up what she said about who she was?
I'm happy you asked the question because I was going to interject at some point, and say that I remember Jumoke, we were friends, even though we were in different houses, and she was a lovely person to be about because she was very cordial and polite. She always had a smile, and I really don't recollect her being unnecessarily mean to anyone, junior or otherwise. She did her job. I remember her as, a member of the labor force, and I remember her, obviously, when we were prefects. I remember some of our mates that, were something else when it came to their attitude and all of that. But
of course.
I wouldn't say that Jumoke was, I wouldn't say she was wicked. I wouldn't.
So, you guys have planned to defend yourselves. Jumoke, what did you pay to say on this?
No, but it's true.
Why can't we have a conversation?
No, I said when I saw her.
Oh my God.
We've actually seen each other since '97, except on Facebook when we chat once in a while.
I
know.
Also, confirm the cordiality by good home training again, because she said cordial.
Okay, Lola is your turn. And Jumoke will have a chance to attest to them since she was your friend in school. Okay, go ahead. From the first day, what happened?
Okay, so I came to command quite late, much later than what Jumoke described. I remember I resumed to command on the 19th of November, 1991. Why do I remember? Because my family was based in Benin City. My dad used to be in the military and he had just retired. And so the family was making that big move to Lagos. So we moved to Lagos first week in November, and second week, I was shipped off to command. I was very excited because, as a child going to boarding school, I had read a lot of Annie Blyton books, and boarding school was this, place where you had a lot of fun, got up to mischief, and sometimes got away with it. I had this very imaginative notion, about boarding school. So I was really excited. I was saying bye-bye heartily to everyone at home. I'm the last of 4 children, and the 2 boys before me had gone to KC. And I saw how they turned out. They weren't bad, but they were hard. You know what I mean? So I just came to command with a very different opinion about what boarding school was. So that first day I got dropped off. Obviously, November 19th, school was in full swing, I didn't have anyone meet me at the auditorium. Instead, I went to the house mistress's house. She brought me to dormitory with my mom and all of that. I was impatient. I just wanted my mom to go, and I can't really say why. I guess it was my eagerness to see what was on the other side. And it was in the evening. So this was around dusk. It must have been about 5 p.m. The sun was, setting, that kind of thing. And I remember that shortly after, so they handed me over to a senior Basirat Sani. She bears Sarah now, Sarah Sani, and she was my school mother. I was told that she would look after me and she was going to be my school mother. And so mom left, the house mistress left, and it was time to go to the dining hall. And so unpacked my stuff, got my plate out, I can't remember who it was I went to that dining hall with, but everything was rowdy. And one thing that stood out for me was that no one really cared that I was there. I came from a background where people cared. People wanted to know about, who you are. We paid attention to each other. And no one really cared. And I was put on this senior's table. She was in Tiger House. I remember her face very clearly, but I can't remember her name. And she was the definition of meanness. I didn't, and it was, I forgot what this part of dining hall was called. You know that part that is just before the kitchen? So not the big dining hall, and not the small one at the back, but it was like an extension.
Yeah,
I think it was called extension.
Where you step down and then you get to that place before you enter the main kitchen.
Right.
And it was so dingy. It was hot. It was smelling. And I saw them flinging the pots on the table. And it was, of all things, a cup. And that's very watery. Growing up in Benin, we used to call Eko Agidi. I never ate Agidi. For what? Like, it was...
Welcome to command.
And so I said I didn't want any. And that senior looked at me and said, hey! And she became very dramatic. I will eat your portion. I will eat your portion. Do you understand? And for no reason, she was so hostile. Her face was all, squeezed up and everything. Anyway, I didn't have dinner that night. The following morning, it was the same. As time went on, I realized that I couldn't keep skipping meals. The meals were tasteless. And then the seniors, the brutality. I was very sharp-mouthed as a kid. And at home, I got away with lots of things. Like, I would insult my older ones and run away. And, by the time they got to lay their hands on me, a lot of time would have passed. Mom would defend me. I had all sorts going on. And so, seeing the ruthlessness of seniors, like, it was something else. And my school mother was not one of the more popular seniors.
Right.
She was very religious. She was very active in the Protestant church, and I was Catholic at the time. So she was the kind of person that if she said too much, her mates could talk her down. So in terms of being defended, I didn't get a lot. So I quickly, thank God for that skill. I'm very quick to judge a situation. So I quickly understood what was happening. Do you get? And I mellowed. And even though I don't like to think I'm still sharp-mouthed. Even though I was sharp-mouthed, right? I wasn't confrontational. It's an unusual mix. I don't like confrontation. I would rather avoid a confrontational situation than go headlong into one. And so I just coped in command by being quiet. People didn't know I could talk unless they were close to me. So the people that knew that I was very chatty and that I could actually be extroverted were people that were my friends and close buddies. But to many seniors, I was that quiet girl that never said anything. I got, as much as I could, I wouldn't get into trouble. But then we had what they call corporate punishment. When one person offends and everybody gets punished. And like Jumoke has rightly said, those crawlings, I know Scotland House was the last dormitory in the girls' hostel. So any crawling that was happening, Scotland House girls got it worse. Because they would crawl from dining hall to Dragon House and Fun House would have left us. So it was always up to us and Scotland House girls. And because we were at the back, somehow I felt that our drilling sessions, were worse because it's like nobody knew what was happening in that quadrangle. And so we would get punished, really hard. And to be honest, there was no point hiding. We had some really mean seniors that will fish you out, and we were better off just carrying out the punishment when it was going on than being punished separately. So generally, my initial days in command were horrible. I wanted to leave. And so I remember the first visiting day when my parents came, and the only thing I was saying was, can they change me to command day or joy? My mom at the time was a lecturer in LASU, and I had it all figured out. I said to her, Mom, you know what? You could be dropping me at school on your way to work.
Of course,
I'll meet you up in the office, and then we'll come back home together. Hey, they were having none of it. I really stuck secondary school in command. But obviously, after the initial cry, I cried for I think the first 2 years, just one and just two, every visiting day, I cried when they were leaving. But when I was coming back to school, I used to cry. But by the time I got to either the last term in JS2 or the first time in JS3, I had accepted my fate, and I just started reading. And after that, it was just becoming streetwise and coping with command life.
I have a quick question, because you said your two older brothers went to King's College, right? You said KC.
Yeah.
Then did any other person go to were they boarding school or was it day school?
They were in boarding. So at the time, we lived in Benin when my brothers were in secondary school. Mm-hmm. So my sister, who is the first, went to a day school. She went to the University of Benin's demonstration secondary school. Mm-hmm. So she doesn't know about the boarding life. But my immediate elder brother went to KC from JS1. When we relocated to Lagos, our second born, who was previously in a day school in Benin, also relocated and also went to KC. So at the time, I think my parents just rented the house to themselves, honestly. That was the uni then, right? So my brothers were when KC, and I was in command. It was a very convenient arrangement. Exactly. My dad would probably deny it now because I've never really asked him. My mom is she's gone to be with the Lord, so I will get that chance. It's okay. But
the question I want to find out is that, do you compare your experiences to your brothers who went to KC in their experience to yours from command?
No, my brother that spent the longer time in KC has very different stories of KC. What he because KC had a lot of affluent kids, had a lot of privileged kids. So my brother got into KC on merit. He was a very clever child. So, he passed without any strings. He got admitted without any strings being pulled. And then he met children that were coming from very rich and spoiled backgrounds, permit me to use that word. Children of government officials, children of rich Hausa men, that had the kind of money that he wasn't exposed to. And there was a lot of bullying going on. Because when my brother went into KC, he was very gentle. By the time he came home, like me, he used to cry. He didn't want to go back. But by the time he spent a few times and realized that my parents weren't going to budge, he settled in. And he became hardened. Like he would do stuff at home that I'll be like, where did this come from? Like, this is not the brother I knew. Like, he also, when we were in primary school, he was that big brother that would take me to my class, because he's 4 years older than me, take me to my class. He was my immediate older brother. I had another brother who was the second. Now I would have shuttled to his class. My brother would take me to my class. He was very gentle. He would drop me off and then walk all the way to his class, even though I could make it to my class on my own. And then this brother comes back from KC after 1 or 2 years and is a completely different person. Like, he would actually beat me if I misbehaved. And
so it's bringing all the anger from KC to you.
Yes. No, I think his mindset just changed. And children is that there's a lot of peer influence going on with teenagers and all of that, and they really don't process information objectively. If everybody's doing it, it's got to be right. That's how the young ones are. And he's back to his gentle self now. He's now back to that doting brother that I once had. So that's life, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think I agree with you that the frustration that comes in secondary school. And what I was just trying to find out is that from him, you going to a regimental school, and that's more. I do have friends who went to KC and QC. Yeah, they talk about the affluence there from people from different parts of Nigeria, and sometimes they talk about discipline and some other things. So that's what I was just trying to get to. My
brother got into a lot of trouble. He got into trouble to the extent that my dad had to be called to school several times.
Yeah, I've heard about a lot of things like that.
At a point, he was threatened with expulsion. He got into that much trouble, and I think because of his temperament, and I suspect he never really gave me the full gist. I got bits and pieces because he internalizes things, right? But sometimes he would share a bit of his experience. I think he got bullied into becoming hard. So he would be forced to do stuff he really didn't want to do. just so that he could fit in, or just so he could avoid further bullying.
And you have to understand something too. I remember when I finished command, my mother was so scared because I never used to laugh. I was so hardened. My mother was scared of me. Her friends would come to me and say, this your son doesn't laugh. So I was hardened. I was sad. I hated that school at that time. So Lola, going forward, you were the house captain. No, Lola knew, not the Jumoke.
Okay.
You down now. You get your seat. All right. So Lola, you said you were house captain for Scorpion House.
Yes, I was.
So if I ask somebody in 2006, right now, why you were house captain in 1997, what would they say about you?
To be honest, I think they would say that I was a good house captain. Let me tell you something that I've never really disclosed to anyone. Not because I wanted to hide it, but because the occasion never, arose.
Right.
I was actually scared of that leadership position because I was scared that my temperament would not be able to carry it. So my set was the first set that wasn't allowed to go for GCE. Typically when you get into SS3, the first term you go for GCE, which was usually in November.
Yep.
And when Jumoke, I don't know if you remember, so the set before us had that.
Yeah,
they'd go for GCE. In November. And when they go in November, there would be like a deputy or somebody to fill in the gap.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I was dome captain for when the set before me or before ours went. Honestly, I don't know how I coped, but somehow I coped. I think because I'm quite charismatic, even though I say, even if I'm saying that myself, but I am charismatic in a quiet way. Like, I'm not a shouty, hey, I'm here kind of person, but I've got a very likable personality. And in my business today, I've identified that is, what I bring to the table. That's what makes me different.
Yeah, that's a story.
When I look at my customers' testimonials, one thing resonates, or one thing is, cuts across them all. They always say, Lola was friendly yet professional. They'll say it in their own way, in different ways, but that is what they say. So it was just a month, 4 weeks. Okay, I could cope. And because I kind of knew I was going to be house captain, because the house mistress was my mom's student. She was my mom's student in LASU. Do you get that? And she took a special liking to me. I'm that child that was very obedient. I did everything they said I should do. If you put me here, you'll find me here. You guys. So, and I was clever. So I was like, for her, I was the perfect, candidate for that position. I saw it coming. In fact, my friends used to say, Lola, you will be house captain in our set. I saw it coming. So when Buki Akara went for GC, automatically, it fell on me. I became like the assistant or deputy house captain. I can't remember what we called it then. But before then, I had been dormitory captain, had been dorm captain for my dorm. And I was fine. But I said my methods were different. Sometimes I was hard, sometimes I was friendly. But one thing I did was I always got the job done. Maybe it was favor. Maybe it was God just helping this young girl that wasn't sure of herself. The thing about me is I exude a confident front. I've got a very confident front. So even if I'm shaking on the inside, you wouldn't know, except I expose that part of me to you. Right. So I had all these fears, and it looks like people weren't seeing it. I don't know, but people obviously weren't seeing it. So when they actually made me Scorpion House captain, I was happy because everyone else was happy. In my head, I was like, hey, God, how will I cope? Do you get it? How would I cope? And I remember there was a day we had this new guy, this new Obasa. That guy was ruthless.
We heard about Obasa.
Oh, God, Obasa was ruthless, And I used to, I've always used the avoidance principle. When I think that I can't deal. So I used to avoid him. And on this day, he goes on this, very impulsive inspection we were all in class, and the next thing, they started calling all house captains out. I remember Temilade, she was senior prefect then. Her eyes were red, obviously, and her face was kind of puffy. I knew she had been crying. And Temilade was the no-nonsense person, and her class was next to mine. They were like, come. She called all the house captains in our class. Hey! I wanted to wee on my body. Like, I was like, because, see, Scorpion House, when it came to finishing, I felt that we were at a disadvantage. You would go to other houses and you see that corridors very smooth, because it felt like when they were plastering the corridors, they gave it a final layer of cement. It feels like Scorpion, it used to feel then like Scorpion House, they just stop like concrete. One thing Scorpion House was where, honestly, I used to enjoy going to the
Scorpion House.
Honestly, I used to feel that way, because anytime I went to Dragon or Flying Horse and Octopus House Dome 1 in particular, I'd be like, God, look at how smooth your corridors are. But ours, you would not pit and you see little holes in them. Do you get it? So automatically I was like, and that was one of the mornings that I think I might have woken up late. I just felt like I didn't do the rounds I usually do. And so I was double scared. I was sure that I was going to get a washing down today. We got there and Obasa asked us to, in front of girls' hostel, Obasa asked us to line up according to our houses. We didn't even know.
So you took the house captains with him to the girls' during classes.
Yeah, he was waiting for us in front of girls' hostel. And so Temilade came to call all of us. Apparently the SP boy too had been told to go and call all the house captains for boys.
No wonder all of you hated that.
He's someone that he used to ride a Mercedes V-boat. He was a young officer, right? So I think he came to the school. I don't know what experience he had with girls in his previous school or what have you. He came like someone who was here to take revenge.
Yeah.
But the boys complained too. No, but boys complained too. Boys complained that they didn't like him.
I mean, for boys, he dealt with them like horribly. I mean, we had a girl who was in our sets whose dad used to be, I'm not sure if you remember Halola Onome Kokori. Her dad was a majority. Was this New Peng or something guy who used to organize all this protest against government. I mean, this guy will come to the assembly ground and watch this girl because of her dad's job. Military administration. So he would come and watch this girl and insult her because her dad is protesting against something. So he was that kind of a mean person. And many of our mates are his friends now in Nigeria, but I still don't. I'm like, that guy was wicked, brutal.
To us, he was fearless, and like he spared no one. But you know, the interesting thing when I was going with that story was, because you asked about how I saw myself as a prefect, and I was trying to say that to a large extent I was unsure of myself, even though I put up, a confident
facade, yeah.
Yes, and the interesting thing was Obasa asked us to, arrange ourselves according to our houses, and we didn't even know how you arrange yourself. As we didn't know how the colors of the military, let me put it that way, were arranged. Apparently, there was some way. He backed at us, did everything, finally got us in formation. And the next thing he says, he turns to Temilade and says, "Where is that girl?" And Temilade says, "Lola." Oh my goodness, I wanted to die. But do you know, interestingly, it was like everything just flipped. And he was like, "You see this girl? As small as she is, because I'm petite. Now I've put on weight, but I'm 4'9", so I'm quite small, And he said, "You see this girl? As small as she is, her house was the cleanest." I don't know how that thing happened, because data-wise, Scorpion House had more girls than any other house. Our bunks were clumped together. I don't know how. Maybe angels went and did it for me. Do you understand? I couldn't even soak in the praise. Do you understand? I felt like there was a mix-up somewhere, But a part of me was excited. And as God would have it, The next inspection, my house won again. God, you're in control. I wasn't born again then. I wasn't born again. I'm saying all of this in retrospect.
So after you said that day, did you go and look around your dorm to look at how clean the place was?
I see before.
Yeah, I know, because I would have done the same thing.
Like, I don't know what happened.
The first place I went to was back of dorm. Second was dorm 2, which was my dormitory, was the last dormitory in the whole of the girls' hostel. And you can imagine what our back used to look like. Like, our grass on a good day would be high if nobody had cut it. People used to throw pool, do all sorts. The first place I went to was there. We had this notorious clothesline, that people would dump their clothes on. And I couldn't see what he saw. So I was like, is it that other people's houses are cleaner than ours? But somehow, I just took it all in. And after that experience and the next week's experience, where, we Shopping House came first in inspection, my confidence grew. My confidence grew because it felt like, Laura, you're doing something well,
Right,
and I just kind of rode on that confidence, and somehow he saw me as, I don't know, I wouldn't say I was his favorite, but I suspect that he developed a soft spot for me because he was, I could sense a kindness. I mean, Obasa wasn't kind. Do you understand? But you know what I mean? Like, there was a very mild when he saw me. And then much later, when I lost my mom, because I lost my mom in SS3, when my dad came to break the news and pick me, it turned out that my dad had known his father or something like that. And, they got talking and all of that. And so that kind of helped me during his period. And knowing that I had that kind of backing from somebody that everybody feared gave me the confidence to really do my job. But I was not that senior that was mean or ruthless. No, I was firm sometimes when I had to be. But generally,
you were definitely a disciplinarian, because the first time I chatted with you, I was like, damn, this woman the uptight too. It was just like proper and so structured.
No, but that's the way amongst our set, we're prefects, so at times we have that, things we have to collaborate on. She's always been, even though I'm tiny, I'm a no-nonsense person. Don't take me for granted. Right. So, that attitude, like, I'm not push around, and, so I think she's always had that. She's got that confidence and always in control of what she's doing. So at that point, yeah.
To be honest, I'm actually surprised right now that she's talking like this, because I didn't expect it.
I'm very friendly.
From the chat, I was expecting a soldier. Like, yes, no, go, stop.
Right? When you spoke about the cutlery thing, I remember when I resumed, I don't know what happened. My mom gave me a breakable plate to take to school. Ooh, so I remember always taking it to dining hall. My school mother, she was just an amazing person. Adesua Rubusi. She was kind of different, the opposite of Lola's school mother. Adesua was the cadet GSL girl.
I remember her.
She had that kind of, she had that charisma, and everyone around her, and most of her friends were prefects. So again, I had that little privilege and protection from them. But I remember that going into school, I would go to dining hall. We used to eat in the small dining hall as just as one student then. The one at the back, close to the bush.
Right.
I remember.
Yeah, small dining hall. I think the food prefect, I don't know that. I didn't even know the guy had been watching me. But, flying us, I'll enter, eat my food and go. So he just entered. Maybe he was in a bad mood. Or maybe somebody had just chipped him off. I don't know. He just entered dining hall and gave everybody warning. You must always come to this dining hall with your plate and cutleries. The day you don't have it, you're in trouble. That flying us house girl with breakable plate. The day your plate breaks, you better break with it. Weird.
I'm a soldier boy.
What did that What did the whole day?
No, she was an SS1.
You're an SS1.
No, it was a GSS1.
GSS1. So that would be 92 set that would have said that then 40 set.
Yeah. He was Nyogberu Oseni or something. I can't forget.
Yeah, that was his name. I remember him.
He just said, especially with that flying house girl with breakable plate. The day your plate break with it. I was like, see, that was just it. I was like, hell no. From nowhere.
So
there are quite some fun memories from school, though.
So let me ask you, starting with Jumoke. I mean, I know you have 2 kids. You both have 2 kids each. Will you send your children to command?
Unfortunately, no, because I'm based in Canada.
No.
Okay, so if you're in Nigeria,
let me rephrase it.
No,
because Jimmy, wait now. You won't play Wayo. Let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
In 1992, 93, will you send your child to command?
Okay, taking it back then to 1992.
Right. If you had a child then, the way you were dropped off, will you imagine your children right now being dropped off in command like that?
Yeah, I will do it because honestly, I'll do it because at that point, it wasn't, there was nothing wrong with it then, but coming out of the school now and looking back at things, I'm like, man, my dad and mom were something to have allowed me to go to that school. But back then I would do it. I would
know. You mean if you're in Nigeria right now, you wouldn't even think about it? They can't go.
I won't. I've not been to the school in a long time. So except if I go and do an assessment, but with what I went through and the kind of life, and I look back and I wonder how I survived. I will tell you, throughout my GS1 to GS2, there was no time I returned to school. After that resumption, I returned to school on a normal day because I was always being treated for typhoid fever. So for me, I was always being treated for typhoid fever. At some point, my dad was a military officer, so he will have to drive down with jerrycan of 25 liters water for me.
Right.
Yes, and then he would expect me to drink it, and then there will be water scarcity. I'll just take the keg of water, pour it into my bucket, and bath with it.
I didn't send tankers during that time for you guys.
Sorry?
Didn't they send tankers to the school? I never used to send tankers.
There was a particular one that was very bad that we didn't have water for days. In fact, the reservoir by the girls' hostel became dry. That reservoir that used to have frogs and toads in it became dry. So then they never brought on a tanker. But with the tankers, they will tell you all to line up your buckets. So maybe you get like half a bucket of water. When you get to the gate of the girls' hostel, seniors are waiting in the corner, all taking one bowl from the buckets. And you're left to rub and shine when you get to your dormitory. Because that's what you're left with.
But you guys are lucky. In our junior days, before they started bringing the tankers, we used to go to, what's that place that we used to walk to? The other military where they train dogs. I'm trying to remember again. That we have to walk all the way.
The military, where they have the pigs and everything.
Yes. So we used to walk there. It's not bad. It's not bad.
That place was behind the soccer field.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name now. So in our junior days, we used to do that. It used to be a lot of suffering because on your way coming back with buckets, right? Seniors, lazy seniors go on to fetch water. So they'll be taking one bowl for by the time you get to go, they're looking at me like, and you can't say no, who born you? You understand? But then so they changed the whole thing and now started bringing tankers in. Yeah, I hated, I forgot what that place was called, but I hated going when there was no water and we had to walk all the way. Oh my God, I hated that. It was like
I remember the riot. There was a serious riot at some point that they couldn't go to buy us food. That seniors, food prefect had to improvise, and they made something called rice pudding for us on a Sunday.
I remember they made rice pudding. They made
that truck they used in buying the food. They couldn't take it out because of the riots, so it wouldn't get smashed. So they poured rice and milk and what have you. They just gave us concussion to eat.
How was it? Did you taste good?
I remember. Can you remember when there was the killer beans saga?
Wow.
I went with beans for a really long time. I was all excited. Thank God, no beans. And then everything got resolved and this came back. It was like management had a brainwave and said that these kids have been eating rice all along. And everything was beans. I don't know if you remember, we have beans in the morning. We would have
Monday morning.
We would have akara in the morning. We would have beans in the afternoon. We have beans times a day. Like in different forms.
You predicted anyhow in class.
Beans like, what is that?
to make up for lost time.
I learned that your set, you guys before us, right? And this was from my sister, that you guys, you know, the poultry used to have the chicken, house chickens, and you guys had chicken maybe Sunday or something, or what have you?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, the issue.
No.
Well, there was chicken that the school provided, and there was chicken the students provided themselves.
School provided. We had to take chicken. In fact, I was telling my husband about the story. He went to Cancun, boarding school as well. I was telling him about how they would just fling those pots on your table, and the meat were just like the top of your finger, right? I mean, from head to tail, literally. And they would tell you to share. And someone would take it.
Wait. Are you serious?
She's not joking. The way I used to defend the meat to my parents was the size of a Maggie cube, and I'm not joking.
Yep.
That was the only thing I could compare it to.
Yep.
I'm like, Mom, our meat is like, you know, a Maggie cube. It was that small. I'm not joking. That's how it was. And you were lucky sometimes if you got one, because sometimes there were usually 10 people on a table, and sometimes there'll be only 8 pieces in there.
Wow.
So Lola,
the women in the kitchen just used to, you know, do like a random toasting.
Lola, wait now. Wait, you are back to. Wait, this one the vex. You see, still the vex.
No, I wanted to ask Jimmy a question quickly, just because Mama pointed on that. Tell me about your own leadership experience in being the utility prefect. I want to hear about that. Yeah, and the other thing that I realized from what Mama said earlier is, in our own time there was no assistant or deputy. So for what you said, because we said before you guys used to go for GCE, you now appointed. I was like, okay, that made sense, because I used to wonder, when did they switch that to start making assistants, then made the main person, because that never happened in the 80s. There was strictly that prefect, but there was dump captains and stuff like that. So I was curious about that.
Let me just point out quickly, sorry, the assistant, it wasn't formalized. Do you understand? It was just something that each house knew that this person was in charge, right? So they weren't giving badges or anything. So you weren't a prefect until you got into SS3. But when the SS3 students were away, there'll be a designated SS2 student, or 1 or 2 of them, to run things till they came back. And so once they came back, everything went back to normal. You know.
But don't they make you prefect in your third term SS2?
So what they do. Yeah, okay, so you're like an acting prefect first. Those are like official things, right? So, okay, our set, things changed with our set, if I'm correct. I think it was our set that things changed slightly with all the assistant. We also had assistant senior prefect girl, right, Lola?
Yeah, we did. Adriana was in my house.
Yeah, exactly. So they came up with this structure where you had, if you had been in the force and, you know, your academic record and things like that were some of the things that were taken into consideration before you were appointed a prefect, to be sure that you'll be able to cope with the demand of your classwork or your academic work and all, and the extracurricular stuff that you had to do. So for us, what they did was, when those seniors, and one of the reasons they canceled GCE for us was, for some reason they said they realized that, you know, students were not taking the main SSCE serious anymore, because they saw this, you know, by the time the GCE November, right? So the results were out before May, June. So they were not serious about the May, June exam. So that was why they canceled it for our set, to say you couldn't take GCE after, before your May, June exam. Yeah. So seniors would go away at that point. Then those seniors who were the prefects had people that they felt could deputize for them when they were away. So they're the ones who will give the names to whoever they had to give the name to, maybe the house mistress or housemaster or AO. So then they put you guys in charge until those people returned. So the moment they returned, everything went back to status quo. They become prefects back, and you remain your normal self.
So will they make you prefect in the future?
Yeah, most of them. Most times tried that, ended up becoming prefects in the future. Definitely. You know, like, you know, taking it forward.
It's more like you were being built as a prodigy.
Leadership, exactly. So that was That was the thing. The only thing that we had was the time prefect was always a year or two the junior, because they were looking at the effectiveness and being able to be in class at the same time and doing all those things. So we usually would pick an SS1 student to be the timekeeper.
Oh, really?
Prefect, yes, that was what they did.
But that means the person had privileges now. The parents will not punish him like that because he felt that he has some little authority.
Yeah, but most of the students that were chosen were people who were respectful, and and you can take they were respectful juniors that would not take that for granted, like, oh, I'm a prefect after all, you guys. So the prefect also accorded them that respect, but you got the So
did they become, when they became SS2 SS3, did they make them senior prefect or something else, or they just took that away from them? Because
they became prefects. It was not necessarily senior prefects, but they usually had a position. They usually had a position.
You asked about my leadership style. My leadership style was more of my leadership style in school, if I would, to look back, was one of someone who would lead and I kind of show you what I want to be done. So that there's no, it's not just, this is what I want to do. This is the picture. This is the big picture. For example, you want, I was assistant utility prefect. I think once or twice I went with my male counterpart to the generator, because those were some of the things that were under my job, like turning on generator, reporting if we had diesel or not, going around the dormitories and collecting light bulb points, like, okay, if you're missing bulbs here and there, water not working, and those were the things that I had to do as assistant utility prefect girl. We'll coordinate all of those and then submit to the school so that they could provide those things for the various dormitories or classes, as the case may be. But my style of leadership was more showing people what I wanted done, like leading by example, and then.
Wow, cool.
So generator was still working that time in that.
Yes. So
wow. The two of them or one? Was it two generators?
I think we had two.
Yeah, no, but two were there. They were both working. So I just went find in 97. They were still working. The two generators.
I think we had one working, but there were times where we had total blackouts. On those nights, AO would just issue a command, everyone go back to your dormitories, or no prep and no night prep and what have you. So yeah.
So many generators were not working. That's why.
One of them. I think we had one at that point, and there was a time it broke down for a while. And then we had the dark night and, lights out. So.
Wow. Okay. So, Lola, back to you. Will you say your keys to command?
The truth is, I don't have to think about it, no.
Keep it straight. I like that.
That's the reason I'm able to say it straight away is because I've had this conversation with people before. I really personally don't think command did much for me. I enjoyed command when I became a senior. I was already independent, so my parents raised us to be independent. So I can't claim that the independence I have is from command, right? If anything, I think that, yes, because I am raising my kids the way I was raised, right? And my 7-year-old already fries her own eggs. She had eggs this evening. And she fried it, right? It doesn't make me a careless parent. I'm just very strategic. I was seated where I could see her, and I just reminded her, don't forget, make sure the handle of the pan is not sticking out. Give her those basic things, and she did her thing. My kids do some basic meal preps. I don't make sandwiches for my kids. They do stuff like that by themselves. My oldest son can do some things by himself. The other day, I sent him to Tesco, which in like 10 minutes from my house, but I gave him, he has a phone, but I don't let him have it all the time. So I gave him my own phone, and told him to keep it on. And my phone is passworded, so he knows that if he doesn't keep that phone on, he won't be able to call me. So that's me teaching him responsibility. So I'm telling him to watch over something. It must not die on your watch. I have a very healthy relationship.
No, but that's good. I just want to say that means you're bringing command methodology to what
I'm trying to say is that
she's telling us
I didn't learn that in command. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
Do you get it? So I can't say that that's what command did for me because I already had it when I went into command.
But wait, Lola, listen.
You get it.
There's this toughness you got from command.
My mom was a different level. If you knew my mom, you will not dare to even give command 1/10 of the glory. My mom was a hard nut to crack, and my sister didn't go to any boarding school, right? But my sister is worse than I am. Did you get it? So I'm being very honest. See, I love the people I met in command. If you ask me, what did you enjoy the most about command? It has to be the friends I made. Do you get it? I made, like, Jumoke said at the beginning, you meet people.
Okay, Laura, wait. That will lead us to the next question. I already knew some people that had a couple of people that had bad influence on you girls. You shared it with so much passion. Okay, so what about the good influence? We had some good influence on you.
Your mates, seniors, teachers, juniors.
I think there was this pressure to be. I would not say any senior, had a good influence on me, because I think generally in command, at least for girls, there was this pressure to not be faffed about with, like, a bit like what they call Arifi, do you understand?
Right.
So even if you were a gentle senior, you wanted to be hard so that juniors
exactly.
So I think that is one of the reasons why I said I would not send my child to command. I think for me, when I look back, I have some baggage I carry from command. Do you understand? Things that have to do with my mindset. And I think it's because of a lot of things that were going on. Children, remember that you get into secondary school when you're at what age? 10, 11, 12,
the average, yeah.
Right? And you spend 6 years there. And interestingly, those 6 years are your formative years. Because at 11, you're just coming into your own. And in the next 6 years, you're blossoming from, a child into a full-blown teen, because you leave command or you leave secondary school at age 17. Mm-hmm. So things happen that can stay with you for the rest of your life. In fact, I dare say that things happen that stay with you for the rest of your life.
They do.
There was a lot of Scotland House girls, generally, I would say that we were not the showy types, right? And so we got the impression, that people used to sidetrack us a lot. And I realized that for a good part of my life, of my adult life, I was used to being sidetracked. Even though I put up this, I like to say I put up because I'm confident. I don't doubt that I'm confident, but I'm acknowledging my inner struggles, right? When I say that. Right. Yeah. So some of my inner struggles, I've been able to trace back to command. Because despite the fact that I know how to speak up, sometimes I don't speak up because I don't want people to just talk me down. That came from command. Before then, I didn't have the fear of being talked down at. And I'm not talking about just teachers. In command, if you were a good girl, you would be fine with the teachers. It was about the seniors and your peers. And sometimes even your juniors, because once your juniors got the hang that you could be messed about with, then the ones that had the gutsy ones would try you, and so there was a lot of toxicity going on, at that peer-to-peer level that I did not like, and that is one reason why I won't send my children to command. There are so many other reasons, because some of the things we went through, I felt that they were necessary. Like I said,
Lola, in the world where we all live, we live in the Western world. Yeah. All of these experiences, the things that I can relate with, right? Yeah. I was a flying house, and quote and unquote, people saw the flying house girls of our sex, like the stuff, like the people who were more like
happy babes.
Exactly. So it was more about, it wasn't the first quadrangle that everything got finished and started, where you had Dragon and Flying House girls. So if you talk to 97, they'll say Flying House, but my point is, what you were trying to point out, it's the same thing that, that level, that formative years, it's what we as parents are trying to help the kids through. Even here in the Western world, where you are not being heard, where you're, because of the color of your skin, you're a minority, right? So I don't think it's peculiar to command. That's what I just wanted to, it's not
I don't think it's peculiar to command, but I think because it is in a boarding school where the kids are dealing with themselves, it's uncensored. You can't step in and help. Do you understand? I would not send my child to any boarding school. UK, US, Australia, Asia, London, Ibadan, Lagos. The point is, I don't believe in boarding schools anymore. Do you understand? I know that my experience in command does not necessarily, paint the picture of every boarding school. But I'm saying that I believe, especially in this generation, there's a lot going on. I believe that those years are too sensitive for parents to miss out on. Do you get it?
Yeah, we've heard that from a couple of people.
What did you say, sorry?
We've heard that from both males and females that are coming over here in regards to, you're right, those are the years of when we are being formed and, what's the word I'm looking for again? You're blooming.
Transformed.
Yeah, transformed, but there's a word I'm actually looking for that escaped my mind. But I definitely agree with that. But I'll say this, first of all, your foundation from your parents, right, in regards to how they raise you, it matters a lot, right? It does, because in regards to your self-esteem, amongst a lot of stuff. Now, when you come to command, some people are timid, some people can't speak out, especially if you're small, you're a bit scared and stuff like that. And I feel that framework of boarding school, and for us especially that went to a regimental boarding school, it gives you some self-confidence later. Not necessarily when you're there, per se, because you're scared of being punished and all the structure, especially not so much from the teachers and the soldiers, but more from your, as you rightfully said, your mates and seniors and maybe the junior that thought it could try you and stuff like that. But I think when you reflect back, say 20 years later, you see that, as I always say, you give parents the credit to your parents first, because I have to give, my dad is a strict disciplinarian, was a military officer, and my mom too was very strict. But I also say that it helps you in regards to your mental health, that when you come into the world where you're, working, going to school, and all that kind of things now, especially when I look at, for me, over 30 years, it gives me a strong mental health. In regards to, nobody can just chance me and stuff like that. It also helps me focus, right? Being resilient, knowing that, look, regardless of whatever challenges you have, you can always step up and stuff. Failure does not mean you are not going to be successful in life. You can always try, you understand? And those are the things I felt command built in me, you understand? Yes, my parents, the education and all the other things, and I'm happy that even before we came to command, my mom stopped the batsmen from washing our clothes a year or two before we finished. So for kids who, and you can tell, for kids who, their parents were, when they came to command in their 4 and 2, they were struggling in washing clothes and stuff. The seniors will beat them. They didn't know that you have to wash the collar and everything. It's true, no, you could tell. But my mom stopped that when I was in primary 4 going into primary 5, because she knew I was going to go to boarding school. So I was able to wash clothes. I didn't get into trouble like those other juniors that didn't know how to wash clothes, but they beat the shade and dealt with them. I washed the clothes, and I preferred washing clothes than ironing senior clothes. Because when you're ironing, more clothes will come into you. So I just wash your clothes and put it on your friend. So I preferred that. So command does build that structure, regardless of how much we hated it while we're there. But when you reflect that years later, like the one of the questions I asked you earlier, yes, I have twin daughters. They're 13. I build the command culture. They know, because they're like, Daddy sometimes he shouts, that's the RSM in me. And I'm hollering in you because you're not supposed to do what you're supposed to do. Like, did we not talk about this yesterday? Like, I said, my friend? And they know. I know when I first started saying my friend to them, they were like, Seven, we're not your friend, we're your children. I'm like, my friend?
Me, I'm talking to you.
My dad used to do that too. My dad used to do that, my friend. So those kind of things, you bring some little, nuggets from what you learned as kids, you need to kind of put your kids. No, I don't believe in beating kids or anything, but they know that when they have my tone goes up, they're like, okay, that is not joking, because I'm like, and I give them that look, wait, are you serious now? Exactly. So they know that. Yeah.
Let me just clarify. I'm not saying that command didn't do anything for me. Don't get me wrong. The question was, would I?
Lola, even if you say it, we don't believe it.
Just to build on what, just to build on what Book is said, right? When I look back, for me, the years that command had the most impact for me, I would say, was in university. So, you know, a lot of people came into uni not knowing what to do, not knowing how to live on their own.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was already used to that drill. You get, I was a self-starter. Command did that for me, because no matter how, you know, strict or structured an environment I came from at home, without command, I wouldn't have had that by myself experience. You know, command did that for me. Command taught me how to live with not having. When your provisions were finished, you missed. Do you get it, right?
Yeah,
Command taught me how to share. Command taught me how to have compassion. There was a junior that one day I just couldn't deal with, you know, with her look anymore. Her teeth were minging, like they were. I could imagine scraping the plaque off her teeth.
Why you gotta be so graphic about it?
Sorry, that's just how I am. Remember that I'm a writer. Do you get? And it taught me compassion. I didn't have to do anything about that child. If anything, her elder sister had been mean to me. Her elder sister had left and was my senior, was a few years my senior. But I just couldn't deal. Command taught me compassion. What did I do? She couldn't find her sponge. She was the classic example of a child that never did anything at home and then came to command. And when she came to command, her big sister was there. So it was from fire pan to fire. She still didn't learn. So her big sister more or less left her helpless. And because of her big sister's reputation, all seniors turned their backs on her. So one day, I got a bucket of water, if not two. You know this tree that grows, the one that has the sponge that we peel? Because she didn't have a sponge, she didn't have anything. I gave her one of my new toothbrushes. My dad's a dentist anyway, so I used to have lots of spare toothbrushes in school. Got a new toothbrush, got one of those pods, peeled it. I washed her from head to toe. You know what? I didn't have to do it. But I just couldn't do it. And the last one, I don't have a younger sister. So I wasn't even imagining that she was my younger sister. But it taught me compassion. I learned a lot of things in command. Don't get me wrong. And I love the fact that I went to command. It's still to that whole experience. If I don't acknowledge the fact that command left some, I don't know, negative, for lack of a better word, left some negative marks on me. I mean, they're not dramatic marks, but they're just things I have to do with my mind, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. But I was in no way disregarding, the experiences I had in command. I met lots of lovely people that are still my friends today. I haven't spoken to some of them in years, but I always know that they're a WhatsApp call away. And whenever we get in touch, it's like we never stopped, So command was good because I don't want to share that kind of experience with my kids. I don't think that the gains outweigh the negatives for me.
Right. I feel you on that though. Julie, so what about you? What a positive influence on you in command?
Oh, honestly, I think very similar. I think it helped me with my independence. It helped me with my confidence. And I'm the last kid of 4 kids. I'm the last of 4 kids as well. And going into command at, my first year, yes, I had it on a good landing. But after a while, after my school mother left, because I remember my school mother would send people to fetch water for me and all of those things. So I was
one of those dreamers.
So it was targeted on my back the year she passed out, but then when she was going, she handed me over to one of the very notorious seniors who had been planning for me. So what she did was she looked for that one and handed me over to her. Okay, but that said, after a while, I discovered my 007. I could pens, when they're sharing the job, where to run to and things like that. Yes. I gradually built my skills in terms of, knowing who I wanted to be. I had friends across board. Yes, I was in flying us, and I don't know if they used to allow people to choose their houses when you were going into school, but when I went to school to get my letter of admission, I think the admin officer or someone, because I went with my dad, maybe because my dad was in uniform or what have you, the guy allowed me choose the house I wanted. Because they had those little cuts on the file and everything. So I wanted flying nurse because my sister told me I should choose flying nurse anyways.
Yeah, your sister was a flying nurse, I remember.
Yeah, so that said, I think command actually taught me about friendship. It also taught me about planning my time. Right? With school, you knew what, and that's the same thing with my kids. But nowadays, I really try to step back with the things Allah have said. While we're here, my daughter just baked salmon. She's 10 years old. And those are some of the things that I've taught her. My 8-year-old son would do egg, would flip pancake and stuff like that. I think I just learned a whole lot about life on its own and survival. Survival. Yes. Understanding that people are different. Okay, I understood the difference. I was an art student. I was in flying nurse. My combination was very funny. As an art student, I took agriculture. I didn't do economics. As an art student, I did intro tech. I didn't do business studies. I just picked all of these funny combinations, right? And for me, what that did was it took me into different columns and cells, and I met different people. And it's, I'm able to, I look at my teachers, I remember Mr. Shaolu, Mrs. Aburo, Mr. Balogun, all of these amazing people. And one way or the other, they all had this influence on who, I ended up becoming at the end of the day. So for me, it was just about really understanding, respecting people for who they are. Because I had friends who would go to dining hall, we had Lola, we had bubblers who would go to dining hall and not eat, but then go to dormitory and soak gari later on. We don't eat beans kind of thing. But, I also had some other friends who would go to the space ground. I had just different kind of friends in different places. So I was able to manage my friendship with people, understand people and respect them for who they are, and also be independent in my opinion. My decision making.
Wow, you ladies have been so much fun, man. I'm telling you, you've been so fun.
The late 90s are always so much fun. We learn a lot from them, and it's always a complete difference from your experience from the 80s, from folks in the 80s. No, it's a turnaround. And when we talk to people in the 2000s set too, it's a complete turnaround. But it's always funny to listen, especially to you folks who experience Obasa, because if you talk to people in the 80s, we always talk about Ajayoba, RSM, the commandants. But when you talk to people in the late 90s and early 2000s, the RSM is missing in that narrative. The commandant is missing in that narrative.
Passive person.
Yeah,
RSM, I think Bayero or something. I can't remember his name. He was a very quiet guy but I think the AO complimented for that whole set. We had Captain, an Hausa guy, Captain,
I can't remember his name.
Zarewa or something.
Zarewa.
Yes, when we would sing, country school student, what? Then we all yell together. He was I think he was the center of that administration. Commandant was also very quiet, Colonel Ukut. That was who we started with. We had Ukut, then we had Epo. Then they brought Epo in, and then I think we finished under the watch of, I can't remember who that person was. But I think they changed about 3 times. Then we moved from Captain Zarewa to Obasa. But all the while, the RSM's role was kind of missing for us in our sets.
That's very different from our set. He was very active, always with a squad of soldiers, chasing people up and down.
One person I remember very clearly is Prefects.
Okay, you were still there when you guys were there.
Yes, Prefects had a very distinct personality. Like, he was even more popular than the RSM. Yes, I can't remember the RSM's name. I remember his face, I remember his physique. And he had a daughter in Octopus House.
Yes, in Octopus
House. And he was Mary, she was our junior.
She was our junior.
He was kind of laid back. And I think the boys did stuff to him as well. I think they used to kill his livestock as well, because I used to imagine Generally, his personality wasn't that strong. So when Obasa came, Obasa dominated everybody's personality. So, can't you see? You can't remember who the
commandant was doing. Yep.
Yeah, no, I noticed it. I noticed it from talking to you guys. Yeah, and I heard that Obasan's dad was a senior military officer, and now I think he's a major general.
Maybe he was a commandant of NYSC or something.
Let me tell you how.
Oh, okay, yes, I know that command. That was in the 80s or 90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know how dominant Obasa was? For so long, I thought he was a commandant.
Wow.
Oh.
That's how much his name was so dominant in that era. I actually thought it was a commander, like it was hero. I was just surprised, like wow.
Yeah. And he did for what
that joint.
The other thing I know we had it in our time too is consistent what they call roll calls, right? We had roll calls, but when I talked to people who experienced about it, they were like, oh, he did it so much, especially in the boys done, that he was dealing with people, suspending them. The amount of time they locked you guys in Gadroom during that time was way worse than the amount of, because I never even stayed in Gadroom.
Yes, Gadroom was very functional during our era, and they would send the boys to that portion of it. I felt, that, speaks to what Lola mentioned earlier. It could have made boys really hardened.
Yes.
Right? Because Obasa was someone that there was no pass for you in anything. Right? There was no pass for you in anything. He will be coming, and at times he's reeking of alcohol late in the night. He's a young officer, right, who's having fun too. So he's driving out the way from school, coming into school, through the first gate, second gate. You will see even when you were doing the right thing, you were scared.
There was an element of sadism. I'm not saying he was, but there was. It felt like there was an element of sadism because he felt like he just enjoyed harassing us and seeing us, cower in fear and all of that. I remember when we all went for jam and came back, and because we had been for jam, some of us had loosened our hair and packed our hair in the ponytail.
Yep. Yeah.
We felt or not, Obasa had all of us in the guardroom. And then there was another occasion, I can't remember what we did. We all got flogged on assembly, regardless of your badge. He had no respect for, anyone, whether you were in a leadership position or not.
In our sense, I think Ajayeba was like that. He will flog you just walking by you. For no reason.
No, it's true. You don't look like you look like you did something wrong. Why didn't you do anything? I know that the juniors that will go around like, we have to go and kill his chicken.
They would have killed. And
I think on the other hand, I think people have been too scared to kill his chicken.
No, are you sure?
No. In our time, it wasn't just chicken they killed. They used to go into his house to steal his pot of soup. I was like, you guys have hearts, eh?
I said Obasa had this aura. Like, I think because we had not seen anything like him before. Do you understand? Maybe if somebody came after Obasa and was even worse, we would have had that training. Do you understand? So we would have kind of become resilient, and you know how a frog gets used to the warmness as it increases. Well, because Obasa was such a shock to our systems.
So what class were you when Obasa came? What class were you guys?
We were in SS2. Late SS2.
SS2 was when they brought him. Yeah.
So you just explain more of him.
We were already SS3. Yeah.
We were already prefects. We had been made prefects before he came, because he didn't know. I remember when, the experience I shared, it was fairly new, when he was still fairly new. So he didn't know who we were. He didn't know who was what. So that's why he only knew the two prefects, the two senior prefects.
The head boy and head girl,
yeah. Because they were the ones, really introduced to him and all of that. So, I think he came very late SS2. And then he became fully functional when we resumed SS3.
He became so functional in my brain that I told my dad about him. And even though my dad was a senior officer, I told my dad, that guy is wicked though. So my dad could not just understand that. How can you tell me a captain is? So my dad with me.
To what you just said is, when we first started interviewing in 2007 to 1997, I don't know if not like a captain. What happened to your commander and colonel? You understand? So it's like he was quiet.
Wait, I want to hear this story. Your daddy came to school.
I told my dad because I was so scared of him that I saw him as, I said, he's a very rude man. Oh, daddy, he can be very rude. And my dad said, that no matter how bad the Nigerian army is today, that a junior officer can never be rude to a senior officer. It was just that kind of mentality that I had in my head about him. So finally, one day, my dad went to school with me, and because of it, on the usual, he said he wanted to go to the administrative block. And he wanted to see the AU. I was already like, oh my, this man just wants to put me in trouble finally today. So he went there. And we got into his office. Of course, he would stand up and pay compliment the way you do if you see a senior.
Yes.
And, he got up from his chair and paid compliments and everything. And my dad just wanted to size him up because of all the things I'd said about him and everything. So when we left, my dad said, so can you see that no matter how crazy he is, right? He might be doing that to you students because he wants you to respect him. But he would never, ever disrespect a senior. Again, all of the things he did with Onome Kokori, whose father was just doing his job, and he would talk all. But
that was a civilian.
Yeah, civilian, And he had ways of dressing down civilians by saying civilians are, the way they would. So all those things just made me form this larger than life image in my head about the dude and, for whatever he was. It was true, my dad, I even know that. I knew that his dad used to be the NYSC commandant back in the day. So, and my dad was just like, since that happened, I was just like, okay, but I never crossed his path, except when he did the corporate punishment for everybody, punish everyone, flog you on the assembly ground. The moment you hear, I remember boys in our set got into serious trouble because they would come to girls' hostel, they would come steal school bags, dress up as white men, put the blanket, the white bed sheet on their faces and white powder. The moment you see them as girls, you all pira. And then they will raid school bags and go and sell them to the wives of those soldiers in Bacha. Bacha bread and Bacha burger.
Well, when you say school bags, is that food stuff?
What? The
bags? When you say school bags, you said you are raiding school bags. Is that food stuff?
School bags or different things. It could be candles, and in exchange, right, boys will take it in exchange, go to the soldiers, the soldiers whose wives sell bread and fish, bread and egg in Bacha, and drop it, and those ones will take it from them in exchange for bread or something. So I don't know what happened that day. We're all on the assembly ground and we finished singing the anthem, and Obasanjo said, SS3 boys, stay fast. They knew they were in trouble that day. He now brought, remember, we had at the back of the admin block. That's where we used to do the assembly, except when it was end of school year that we'll go to the auditorium. SS3 boys, stay fast. What he did was he brought the wives of the soldiers. I don't know what happened prior to that. I can't tell the backstory. Wow. They came for identification. They were this one, our customer. They bring back from.
Are you serious?
When you line up and say, come and identify them.
So what did you do to those guys that day? And the boy was customers.
The good boys who were not involved in all those things, went back to class. The moment they pointed to you, they will put you, step aside. Yeah. Those guys had it. They cut grass. It was a massive punishment for them. I get his sense of, he was deterring them because it was as good as stealing. Because they were stealing things from your world. And then going to sell them. So they punished them. Some of them landed in guard room. They spent nights in guard room.
Wow.
Things. Yeah. Oh, that was.
So did that stop after that particular?
We didn't really have that particular incident again until we now started having quote and unquote one black man that would be very.
So that's where black man came up from, because we came on all this black man bullshit. Nothing like that.
No.
Because it was two things we had. Maybe Kankwa, one animal stuff that they used to say. I can't remember that one.
This one is really real black man that will come wearing all black. Looking back now, I just imagine it was someone, a villager who was coming to take advantage of us.
Oh,
You
okay.
would dress in all black and come and steal things. Now, our windows at some point became wooden windows that you know they were either propped open totally, no burglary proof. So, and then as seniors or as girls, you put your shoes on there, put your school bag ready for tomorrow, put whatever. So he would just go through the back of the dormitories and raid. At times, he had the effortry to come into the dormitories, either while you were asleep or when we were in class, during classes. And then he'll jack lockers. You will come, you meet your locker broken, provisions gone. So then Obasa started sending soldiers to guard our dormitories at some point to say during the day when we're in class, you have like maybe one or two of them just walking around to kind of prevent that kind of theft. But he was black man, but the white ones were the ghosts, quote unquote, were boys. They were coming to steal our stuff because they wear bed sheet and white powder, and the moment you see them, you take off. And it was just
listen. That particular incident with Obasa identifying them with the villagers or whatever. I tell you, man, since we do this show, I think that's the classiest story, man.
Yeah, we never heard that.
That is incredible.
So, when we have 97 set boys here in the future, we have to find out if they are one of them.
The ones that were guilty were more of the bubblers. Ask them, yeah. They're the ones they're coming to you.
Yeah, I want to know how Obasa found out about that he now killed all the women.
I don't know what the backstory was either. Whatever happened that day, he just said 3 boys, stay fast.
Yeah.
And then we were all curious to know what was happening.
They might have caught somebody in the act.
Yeah, they might have caught somebody.
Occasion, somebody stole something. I have vague recollections, and he was stripped in between the dining hall, between the big dining hall and the MRS. You know, we had this set of trees there.
Yeah.
And it was a Saturday morning, and they put everything he stole around him in a circle and got all of us to parade around him. Do you remember that?
I think.
Hold on. Guy stripped. What do you mean stripped?
A guy.
Hold on. What do you mean stripped?
Your mate
stripped.
I think if he wasn't our mate, I was a junior.
Is he a junior or I was?
No, wait. Hold on. Back it up. You guys back it up. Lola, what do you mean stripped? What do you mean?
Naked. Like naked.
Naked?
Yes.
Really?
And I was a junior. I remember I hung my head because I didn't have the guts to look. Do you get? They got all of us to, we didn't have a choice. We didn't have a say in the matter. They filed all of us out from Gosdom and got us to walk around in a circle.
What class were you then?
I can't remember, but I was a junior.
Something similar happened.
But I was a junior.
My recollection of it was in girls' hostel, where if you had those girls who stole things and stuff, there was that jungle justice in girls' hostel. I remember, a couple of seniors who their mates paraded, almost stark naked in front because they stole with teens round their neck and, that kind of humiliation. But, I can't remember these. Maybe it was under the tree in front of the music class or something. MRS.
Yes, there was this building. I think it was supposed to be for guidance and counseling or something like that.
Yes.
It wasn't too far from there, right? There was this patch of grass and this patch of earth. It was on the earthy parts. It wasn't where the grass was. There was some erosion.
Right? Yes, that red soil.
And the guy was asked to stand, not even kneel. And it was the soldiers in charge. And there were a few house mistresses around, and house masters. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if the things he stole, if those of us that were asked to parade him, were from the dormitories he had stolen from, I don't know. But he had stolen, and there were a lot of things around him, that he had stolen. So apparently, because I was a junior, and to be honest, I never used to ask much questions, I don't know the backstory. I don't know what happened.
You don't know if they expelled them. You don't know if they expelled them or something.
Or they would stuff like that. They would naturally either suspend or expel. But I don't know the details. It's interesting that.
Wow, ladies.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
We have learned a lot from you ladies.
I have to run anyway, but this is incredible.
No, it's funny. It's hilarious and stuff to hear your perspectives in the 90s. I like listening to people from the different sets. Sometimes I get surprised by my notes too, because I was very, very quiet, and when they review something, I'm like, that happened during that time. They're like, you are very quiet guys. So you understand. But when I hear things that happened in the 90s and 2000, we're like, wow, okay, that's very, very different from us.
I would love to watch. I'd love to watch one of these, your shows with somebody from the 2000s, because
we have it. We have it now. We have it. Okay. The only one we've not interviewed yet are from 2010, right? So we're trying to get. I think it's 2014.
Why we have 2012 and 2014 coming in a few weeks.
Wow, that's good.
So that'll be
because after our results came out, actually after I got into uni, because I had a close relationship with my house mistress, so I went back to Command to say hello, and all that I could see was this height of unruliness. Like I saw people wearing slippers.
It's different.
I saw people wearing slippers, like by the tap just after the second gate. I was like, what the heck? How can you be wearing slippers? You dare not do this in our time. You get punished for it. And there was so much. It was so rowdy and everything. And this was like, this must have been like 1999. And I was like, how come there's such a huge difference? So I'll go back.
No, it is, because funny things, when we talk to people who finished in 93, 94, the school was lax then, right? Because of, like someone said that they did a party in the school, for example. They used to drive out with cars and stuff like that. Those did not happen in the 80s, right? So the school was lax from the 93 to maybe 95. So I maybe that's one reason they brought Obasa in and he turned things out, because you couldn't try that during Lawal or Obidikwe. Those are the two commandants I had.
I was scared of Jayoba.
And Ajayoba, we should, I don't know if you guys done your time, we should jog with 3 kilometers stuff back and forth. You understand? Well, I think it's from 2 or from 3 that I was sleeping off. I woke up with continuous flogging that I had to kick him, you understand, and fall out through this other side and roll under one bed because he was looking for me. You understand? And for the whole week, I refused to sleep in that bed because he kept looking for me that he just called me Taiwo. Taiwo, I will flog that by and I was not sleeping there again. until the company class and flogging them.
We did cross country a little while. We did cross country a couple of times, but it wasn't consistent with our, at least the one that I can remember. During my school mother's set, that was Adisra Robusi, Folake Fayemi or Faleimu or something.
Oh, I thought Folake Faleimu. It's Faleimu. Yeah, 92. Yeah, I know her very well.
We used to do cross country a little bit, from school to drug all the way down that road, like we're going to that bridge, the wooden bridge. Turn back, yes, and then we'll turn back. But I think by the time we got into SS1, all those things kind of just faded out, and we didn't really do it anymore.
Okay, we did it.
Okay, we gotta wrap this up.
So thank you very much, 97 ladies, for espousing your experience, reminiscing about your experience and also your leadership style while you're in command, and also giving us some little gist here and there that cracked us up a lot. So we really appreciate it. Thank you, Mala, for Dr. Lala, let me give you that president, for staying up late in the UK. And to my Canadian sister in your province again, Vancouver. Thank you. That's a place I've not been to yet, so I should come to Vancouver sometimes to say hello and stuff. So thank you for coming on. We really appreciate your time today, and we definitely look forward to you guys. Make sure you subscribe, share, and also to our viewers. And we have, this is the 31st episode, so we've had a couple of episodes being published, and we're grateful for your time. So if I take it away.
Thank you, guys.
Dr. Laura, you do well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For your time. I know it took me weeks to come after you, but that's all good. And Jimmy, I'll be
sir.
reaching out to you for some other initiatives, okay?
No problem. See you
You've done very well.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not seeing you anymore.
Okay.
Hard. I find that hard, but I find except people who are
I'll accept it too. It's okay.
no,
I'll accept it.
exactly. Except people who were 96 that I had a good rapport with. I kind of find it difficult to go by just the first name, because for
It's a
example,
culture.
so I'm used to senior.
You know, when I was a junior, when I was a senior, I didn't really care whether junior said senior or not. I would just, as long as you respect me, you understand? That's the only thing, because me, I was not. I didn't really care, So
my parents didn't raise us to call each other brother or sister. So like my sister is 7 years older than I am, and I call her by her first name. So I don't have a problem with calling people by their first names. For me, it's more the respect.
I prefer. It's simple with me. I have twin younger brothers that are 13 years older. They call me by my name. I kind of fought my parents from them calling me brother. I just felt it was local. But my own is But my own is that I like that they have to be comfortable with you. Yeah, be comfortable with you. If you put those things in there, I feel it kind of puts a barrier, right? And stuff like that. So, and I don't want that. So I've been someone that has just, called my name with chill, just show the respect. Understand? It's not like my cousin that that went to MMS. That one was different. They still say sir when they see someone. So when now you're like, come on, nothing like that. We're just friendly and we're cool.
All right, ladies, we'll keep in touch. When I come to London, the pandemic is kept me from London.
I actually live in Liverpool. I live in Liverpool.
Oh, Liverpool. So are you a Liverpool fan? Are you a Liverpool fan?
Yeah.
My son is.
Never walk alone.
I'm not really into football.
Listen.
They never walk alone.
We gotta go. Don't start.
All right. But if I'm in I'll holler you if I come to Vancouver.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Have fun.